We begin in the Gemara, actually the Mishnah, on Daf Pei Aleph Amud Aleph. Zok the Mishnah, Etzem, a bone, the minimum shear to carry out a bone on Shabbos to be chayiv, Kedei Lases Tarved, in order to make a spoon from it. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kedei Lases Mimenu Chof, to make from it a key. This refers to the teeth of the key, as the Gemara is going to explain. Weiter, zechuches, to carry out a piece of glass. How large? Kedei ligrer by roish hakarker, in order to sharpen the point of the karker. This is the piece of wood that's used in the weaving process that has to be sharpened, and the glass has to be large enough to be able to sharpen it. Tzroir oy even, a pebble or a stone. Kedei lizroik ba'oif, large enough to throw at a bird, to scare away a bird. Rabbi Elazar bar Yaakov says, "Kedei lizrek bebehemah," in order to chase away an animal. So it has to be larger. And as Rashi explains, to scare away a bird, you don't need a pebble. You could just make a noise and it'll fly away. But for a behemah, you'd need a pebble or stone to scare it away. Zok the Gemara, lemeimre, shall we say, the shiure de Rabbi Yehuda nofish, that Rabbi Yehuda gives a larger shear than the Rabbanon, than the Tanakama. But Hakaim alone, we learned in the Mishnah before, the shiure, the Rabbanan nofish. Rabbanan give a larger shear. Rabbanan are the ones that are more makel. This is a question the Gemara asked already a few times before. So over here in the Mishnah, the Tanakama said the shear of carrying a bone is to make a spoon, and the shear of Rabbi Yehuda is to make a key, which would seem to be a larger shear. So the Gemara answers, no. Shiura Amarola Chafi Paisachas. The pshat of the Mishnah is that Rabbi Yehuda is saying the teeth of a key, not the whole key. Don't have to have a large enough shear of this bone to make the entire key, just the teeth of the key, and that in fact is a smaller shear. Tana Rabbana, we learned in Abraisa, Chafi Paisachas Tahirin, the teeth of a key, separate, if it's not attached to the key itself, so then it's toy. It's not makabel tumah. It's not a keli. It doesn't serve any purpose. Kovam bepaisachas, but when you place the teeth of the key into the key, tmein, so then it becomes a keli and it's tummy. Vishelgal, the teeth of a lock, afa pisha chibram bedeles, even once you attached it to the door, the kovam b'masmeirim, and it was attached with nails, it's affixed into the door, tahirin, it remains tahir. Shekol hamchubel karka harehu kekarka. Anything attached to the ground has the halacha like the ground itself, which is not susceptible to tumah. Only a keli is susceptible to tumah, a movable item, and not the ground itself. The next thing that's out of the Mishnah is a chuchis kedei ligrer by, the glass in order to sharpen the piece used in the weaving. Tana, we learned in Abrai says tzechuches. Over here, the girsa is tzechuches with a samach, and as Rashi says, the word tzechuches with a samach means that it's you can see through it. Seichen, that when it means when you look and you see through something. The word tzechuches, Rashi says, is from the lashon zakah, that it's clear. So both have the same meaning. It refers to glass. Kidei liftzoya bo shnei nimin ka'achas, in order to separate two pieces of thread that are together as one. That's the minimum shear of the glass that's needed. Tzroir oy even kedei lizrek ba'oif, a pebble or a stone. The shear, it said in the Mishnah, was to throw at a bird. Rabbi Elazar said to throw at a behemah. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'hu shemar geshes ba'am. We're talking about a stone or a pebble that's large enough that the animal feels it when you throw it at it, and that's what scares it away. In other words, it's not being scared away just by the noise that it makes, but it's large enough that the animal could feel it. The kamesh yurai, how large is the size? Tanya Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Oime mishkol asar zuz, the weight of the 10 zuz. Now the Gemara begins. There's a sugya here for the next blat or so, where the Gemara is going to discuss halachas regarding carrying pebbles that were used in those times to wipe oneself in the bathroom. So in the Mishnah, it mentions the stones and pebbles that were used to scare away an animal. But over here, we're talking specifically about stones or pebbles that are used for one to wipe themselves. Zunin all the Medrasha. Zunin entered into the Beis Medrash. Amalahu, and he said, Rabbi Sai, my teachers, Avanim shal Beis Akisei. the stones used to wipe oneself in the Beis HaKisei. Shiyuram bekama. What is the size? So as Rashi explains, the Gemara here is asking two questions. First of all, the question is, what is the minimum size to be chayiv if you carry them out into the Reshus HaRabim? Just like all other items, you only chayiv if you carry it out for its intended use. So over here the question is, what is the size you would be chayiv that it's useful for wiping oneself in the Beis HaKisei? It's the first point. The second point, Rashi says, what would be the shear that it would be allowed to be metaltal, to move it, even inside a chutzner on Shabbos? Otherwise, these pebbles or stones would be muktzah on Shabbos. But if it's designated for the use of Beis HaKisei, so then it would be allowed. So what is the size? When do we know it's designated for the Beis HaKisei? Amrulai, so they answered him, there are three sizes. Kezayis, size of an olive, ke'egos, a walnut, a kebeitza, and an egg. As Rashi explained, they use these three sizes. First they wipe themselves with a smaller one, then a larger one, and then an even larger one. These are the three sizes that are used. Amaluhu, so Zunin said to them, V'chiturtini yachnes, so that means he has to have a weight with him, or to measure them, to see the sizes that they are. So Nimnu v'gamru, so in fact what they concluded and they said was, Meloi hayad. You're allowed to carry a handful of pebbles or of stones used to wipe yourself in the Beis HaKisei. You don't have to look specifically at the size. Tanya, so this is an argument we learned in Abraise, Rabbi Yosi Omer, Kezayis, Ke'egez, Kebeitze. The size is, as we mentioned before, these three sizes. Shimon, Rabbi Yosi Omer, Rabbi Yosi said, Mishum in the name of his father, Meloya Yad. You can carry a handful to be used in the Beis HaKisei. The Gemara is going to bring up this machlokes soon again, as we'll see. Tana Rabbana, we learned in another Braise, Gimel Avone Mikrzalois, three sharpened stones that are used to wipe oneself. Mutter lahachnes lebeis hakisei. You're allowed to move and carry and bring it to the Beis HaKisei. The kama shiyuren. What's the size? Rab Meir Rab Meir says ke'egois, the size of a walnut. Rab Yehuda kebeitza, the size of a beitza, of an egg. Omar Afram bar Pape, Omar Av Chista. So he commented about this machlokes as follows: Kemachlokes kan, just as they argued over here regarding the size of this pebble, whether it's the size of a walnut or an egg, kach machlokes be'esrik. They had the same argument regarding the minimum size of an esrik. So the Gemara asks on this, Hossa masnisen. The machlokes regarding an esrig is a mishnah. Hocha braisa. This is a braisa, and as Rashi explains, a mishnah everybody's familiar with. The braisa, many didn't know of this braisa. So why is he saying that the machlokes in the mishnah is like what it says in the braisa? So rather the Gemara says it should be mentioned and said the other way around. Kemachlokes be'esrig. Just as the famous machlokes that everybody knows in the mishnah regarding the size of the esrig, kach machlokes kan. The same machlokes applies over here regarding the size of the pebble used to enter into the Beis HaKisei with it. As Rashi points out, this is a very interesting comparison. The Gemara is not saying this by any way of comparison whatsoever. It's two unrelated subjects altogether, but because they would learn Torah Shebal Peh and they wanted the Talmidim to remember the halachas, so they made these comparisons as a way to remind them, remembering the halachas. Amar Rav Yehuda said, Aval loy esapayis. One should not use pious. What does this mean? My pious. Omer abzere karshine bavlaisa. The earth from Bavel, which is soft and flaky and cannot be used to wipe oneself, so therefore that remains muktzeh. You're not allowed to use it on Shabbos. Omer Rava said, Osel mashmish bitzroir b'Shabbos. A person is not allowed to use a stone to manipulate himself in order to relieve himself when he's constipated. Kederech shemimashmish b'choil, as it's done during the week. And the reason is because by doing this, a person can tear out hairs. And as Taisus here explains, that even though this is something that he's not having kavanah to do, and we learned so many times in the Gemara the opinion of Rab Shimon that we paskin like that einay mechaven is permitted. However, over here it's a psik reisha. He will definitely tear hairs, and therefore it's not permitted. So maskef lo Marzutra asking this tolistakin, should he place himself in danger, not being able to relieve himself? And says the Gemara, Kala'ach hayad. What he meant to say is he shouldn't do it in the regular way. He does it Kala'ach hayad with a shini, and that is allowed. Omer Rabbi Yanai explained, Im yesh mokum kavua lebeis hakisei. So this is going back to the argument we had before about what a person is allowed to carry on Shabbos into the Beis HaKisei. Is it the size of an ego? Kazayis, egos, or beitza, or in fact he's allowed to carry a full handful. So Rabbi Yanai says it depends. If you have a designated place that you use for a beis hakisei, you're allowed to carry a handful. Even if you won't use it now, he'll use it later on in the days. He's coming back to that place. In lav, but if not, if he's just using one particular area just for one time, then kehechra. Then you should use the middle size mentioned, which would be the walnut. Not as small as an olive, not as large as an egg, but you should use the middle size mentioned. Meducha ketana shel besamim, a small mortar used to crush besamim. Is that allowed to be used on Shabbos to wipe oneself? So this is obviously, as Larashi here says, it's a keli shemalachta le'isser. It's a keli that's used to crush the malacha of teichen, which is also to be used and moved on Shabbos. Question is, could a person use it to wipe oneself on Shabbos? Rav Sheshes said, "Im yeshal aid mutter." If there's a indication on it that it was once used already before for this purpose, or it's been designated for this, then it's allowed. Meisvei, the Gemara asks a question on this. Asara, we learned in a Braisa, and we actually learned this in the Gemara in Braches. Asara dvarim mevi'in esadon le'dei tachtenis. There are 10 things that brings a person to suffer from hemorrhoids. And this is what they are. Ha'oichel alei konim, leaves of reeds, v'alei gefanim, leaves of vineyards, lulavi gefanim, shoots of vineyards, ma'irige beheme b'loi melach, the meat of animals that is not smooth, that has not been salted. And one of the things that Rashi mentions is the tongue of the animal that's not been salted and prepared properly. V'shedre shel dog, the spine of a fish, v'dog meliach, a salted fish, shalei bishul, that was not cooked, called sarkai properly. Drinking the sediments of wine, and one that wipes himself with lime or with broken earthenware, or with a stone, with a pebble that your friend used, someone else already had used earlier to wipe himself with this. And the Yeshayimrim and others add, when one is sitting and relieving himself, he's sort of suspended in the air, he's not leaning on anything. So one of the things mentioned here in this Braise is using a tzroir, using a pebble that was used before. So how could we say that you can use a mortar for the besamim if there's an indication that it was already used before? Answers the Gemara le'kashit. There's no question. The Gemara gives a few answers. Ha belach, ha beyavish. The Braisa that says that it's dangerous is if it still was, when it was used and it's still moist. And ha beyavish, if it's dry, then it's not dangerous. Iba yisema, another answer. Kan mitzad echad, kan mi beis stadim. If you're using the same side that was once used before, it's not permitted, but using it from another side is permitted. Iba yisema, a third answer. Ha didei, ha dechavrei. If it was used by his friend once before, so then it could be dangerous. But if you used it once before, then it's permitted, and that's what the Braisa was taught. That's what Rav Yanai, or actually Rav Sheshes, was saying before, that if it was used before, there's an indication on it that it was you used it before, then it's allowed. Amalei Abaye Rav Yosef, Rabbaye said to Rav Yosef as follows: Yardu aleo gishamim. If it rained on one of these pebbles that was once used before and had an indication to that, but now it rained on it v'nitashtashu, and the indication became sort of wiped off. Mahu, what's the din? Do you rely on the fact that it was there, that it was used before, and that's enough to be designated to be used on Shabbos? Or since that marking was sort of wiped off, it's not allowed? Amalei, so he answered, if there's still a mark left over of what was used before, even if it rained on it, it's allowed. But if there's no mark left from before, so then it goes back to being a mortar that's being used for besamim, which is also to be moved on Shabbos. So the question was asked as follows: Mahu lahaloisam acharav legag. What would be the halacha? Is one allowed to carry up a handful of rocks up to the roof, to the second floor? That's where he's relieving himself. As Rashi says, the issue over here is this is a tircha yisayr. It's an extra exertion. We had already a few times before that there were certain things Chazal didn't allow a person to do because of extra tircha on Shabbos. So the question is, did they allow this to be done on Shabbos? Amalei, so he answered him, yes, it's allowed. Gadol kavod abriyos shadeicha es loisa shebetayra. We find that human dignity is so great that even a lav in the Torah is pushed aside for this. And as Rashi says, the place where we find this is regarding the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda, where there's a lav. You may not turn away from an Aveda and return it, you have to return it. So Rashi says, but if it's a zakin ve'ene lichfi chvayday, the Gemara learns out from the word vehisalamto, that if it's a older individual and it's not covered for him to go and take care of this Aveda, so he's allowed to turn away. He doesn't have to take care of it. Over here as well, this is sort of tiltal to carry it up and to exert yourself in Shabbos. Chachamim allowed a person to do this because of human dignity. Mereimer was sitting and he repeated this halacha. So Ravina asked Mereimer the following question. We see in another halacha as follows. Rabbi Eliezer said, "Neitul adam kisem mishalafanav." You can take a splinter of wood that's in front of you, lachtzitz b'shinov, to take out any food that's between your teeth. That's stuck over there. You're allowed to take on Shabbos a kisem and use it for this purpose. Chachamim say lo yitel. No, a person is not allowed. It's muktzeh, and you're not allowed to take this kisem to be used for this purpose. Elo mina avis shel behema. You're allowed to take from the place where the animal feeds from, which has been designated to be used on Shabbos, and therefore that's not muktzeh. So what do we see over here? The Chachamim say that although a person cleaning his teeth is covered abrius, it's human dignity, and nevertheless, Chachamim say it's not allowed to be used for muktzeh. So how do we say before that Chachamim allowed the Isser to carry up on the roof, to carry up the handful of which is muktzeh, and to do something which is a tirche just for covered abrius? What's the difference? So the Gemara answers, no comparison. Hachi hashta, how could you compare the two? Hasam, in the case of a person eating a meal, Adam keveya makim l'suda, a person knows and he has an established place where he's going to be eating his meal. So therefore he should have prepared in advance a splinter or whatever he needs, floss, to be able to floss his teeth. Hacha Adam keveya makim lebeis hakisei. In those days, does a person have one particular place where he has designated that he's going to use for a beis hakisei? Wherever he's going to find a place that's available, that's where he'll end up going. So a person can't prepare it in advance. So in this case, the Chachamim won't matter for human dignity. Omar Ravona said, one is not allowed to relieve himself in a field that was just plowed, b'Shabbos on Shabbos. So the Gemara wants to understand why not. My time. What is the issue here? Ileme mishum dafsha is the reason because of his footsteps. He's walking upon this field, and it's his friend's field that he worked to plow up the earth, and you step on it, so you're ruining it. You're destroying his work that he did, so it's not allowed. So if so, this is not an issue of Shabbos. Should be an issue every day of the week. Ella, rather, must be this is an issue of Shabbos, mishum asavim. That what we are concerned over here is that when the field was plowed, so there's going to be pieces of earth or stones that a person's going to use to wipe himself, and it has pieces of grass that are growing on it, and he might tear out the grass. That's what we're concerned about over here. Frekte Gemara, is that an issue? But for Ha'amar Reish Lakish said, Tzroir she'ala bayasavim, a rock, a piece of earth that there's grass is growing on it, mutar lekaneach ba. You're allowed to wipe yourself with this. And as Rashi here says, the reason is because Eina Machaven. Again, the opinion of Rab Shimon, we followed Rab Shimon's opinion that if what you're doing causes a malacha to happen and you don't have the kavanah for that to happen, so then it's allowed. And obviously it's talking about a case where it's not psik reisha. It's not certain that the grass will be pulled out. However, if you pull out the grass on Shabbos, chayiv, you'll be chayiv. Even though we're talking over here, that as Rashi explains, we're talking over here about a pebble or a rock, which just the grass is growing on. It's not growing directly from the earth. So there may have been a reason to think that it would be allowed. It's not getting its nourishment from the earth. But nevertheless, he's saying that if you do tear out this grass from a pebble or a rock, it's chayiv chatos. So the point is, Reish Lakish clearly says that to wipe yourself with a pebble, with a stone that there's grass growing on it, is not an issue. So what is the issue that Rav Huna said with a person relieving himself in the field, in a plowed field? Ela the Gemara says another pshat, Dilmin nokit mi iloi, he may take a piece of earth that's in a place where there's a protrusion, v'shadel tatoi, and then he'll use it and throw it into a place where there's a groove. U'mechayev, and it'll be chayev for plowing. Mishum de Rabbe, as we learned, and we had this earlier, that we learned in the name of Rabbe. The Omar Rabbe said, Hoisele guma utmama, if you have a groove in the ground, and you flatten it, you fill it and flatten it. Bebayis, if this is done indoors, chayev, mishum baina, you're chayev for building. You're flattening out the ground in a house, in a structure. Basada, if it's out in the field, chayev mishum chayrish. You're chayev for the malacha of plowing. So over here as well, in a plowed field, by using something and then putting it into a groove in the ground, it's part of charisha. That's the issue. Gufe, going back to this halacha itself that we just mentioned in the name of Rish Lakish, Omer Rish Lakish says, Tzroir she'olu bayasavim, a stone that has grasses growing on it, mutar lekaneach ba, you're allowed to wipe yourself with it. It's, as we said before, you're not mechaven to the malacha. But ataylish mimena b'Shabbos, if you tear out the grasses from it on Shabbos, even though it's not connected to the earth, chayiv chatas, you are chayiv chatas. Omar Rav Papi, based on this, Rav Papi said, Shmami nomi de Rish Lakish, we could learn from Rish Lakish, Hai parpisa, a perforated flower plant, Shari l'tultuli, is allowed to be moved on Shabbos. And there's no concern about the fact that you are disconnecting it, you're removing it from the ground on Shabbos, that there's no issue of tailish on Shabbos. Ashi over here brings a very interesting thing, which is related to the minig of kaparis that we have today, that we of course do on Erev Yom Kippur with a chicken. But Rashi here brings that in those times, there was, before Rosh Hashanah, they would plant a flower plot 22 days before Rosh Hashanah or 15 days before Rosh Hashanah, and then right before Rosh Hashanah, everyone would take this flower pot and swing it around his head 7 times and say, Zeh tachazeh, zeh chalipasi, zeh turmurasi, and then they would throw it into the river. This is probably the first source, one of the first sources over here. Rashi brings it from the Tshuvas HaGainim as a source for the concept of kaparis. Very interesting. So, the Gemara here is saying that from Rish Lakish we see that just like he said that you're allowed to use it to wipe yourself, so too over here we're applying to the flower pot. You're allowed to move it on Shabbos. You're not being tailish anything from the ground, and therefore you're allowed to move this flower pot on Shabbos. Maskef Lord Rav Kahana asked the question, how could you compare? In that case where he allowed to have the pebble, the stone used to wipe oneself, that's for a purpose that's needed. As we said before, it's kavod abriyos, human dignity, is something that a person is in need. But just to move a flower pot without any purpose, for no need whatsoever, how could you compare? Why should it be allowed? Omar Abaye. So Abaye said as follows: Hi, a parpisa. The story about this perforated flower pot. Hoyel v'asa le'yadan. Since we're discussing it here, le'me be'milsa. Let me say a halacha about this. Hoyel munach al gabi karka. If it was on the ground, v'hinicha al gabi yiseidus, and he lifted it up and put it on pegs, mechayev mishum tailish. He is chayev for tailish. He is removing it from the ground. As Rashi over here says, when you remove it from the ground, so it doesn't anymore get any nourishment from the ground. Since it has holes in it, when it's on the ground, the lashon of Rashi here is, it's nene mireach hakarka. It does derive some benefit, some nourishment from the ground, reach hakarka. But when you remove it and place it on the pegs, then it's tailish, chayev mishum tailish. Interesting though, Rashi does clarify that when it says in the Gemara, the lashon chayev mishum tailish, the Gemara did not mean literally that he's chayev min ha-Torah. There is no chayev min ha-Torah. There's no actual tailish taking place. There was no roots that were connected to the ground. It's aser because it looks like tailish. It's similar to tailish. That's what Rashi over here says. However, the Rambam disagrees. The Rambam says that even in such a case, you'd be chayev for tailish because it does get somewhat of a nourishment of the ground, even just minimizing this amount of nourishment that it would receive is also in the category of tailish min ha-Torah. On the other hand, if this perforated flower pot was positioned on pegs, and he takes it off and places it onto the ground, chayev mishom neteya. He's chayev for planting by placing it on the ground, and now it receives nourishment. You enhance its growth. Amar Rav Yechanan, going back to the halacha of one wiping themselves on Shabbos. So Rav Yechanan said, "Asa lekaneach becheres b'Shabbos." You're not allowed to wipe yourself with a earthenware on Shabbos. My timer. So what's the reason? Sakana is the issue because of sakana, because it's a very rough surface, and by using this to wipe yourself, you can hurt yourself, you can cause a sakana. Afilu b'chayil nami. Even during the week, it shouldn't be allowed. Why did he say Shabbos particularly? Ve'ela mishum kshafim is the reason because of kshafim, because this could make you susceptible to the powers of kishiv. As we'll see soon, the Gemara will bring a story regarding this. So then afilu b'chayil nami loy, even in the weekday, should also not be allowed. So what is the reason? The reason has to be mishum hasharas nimin, because using this tough surface of a cheres to wipe yourself, it causes to pull out hairs. This is something which you're not having kavanah to do, and it should be allowed. So we have a problem. What's the meaning of Rabbi Yechanan's statement? Amalu Rav Nassim bar Oishiyah. So Rav Nassim bar Oishiyah said, let's not give up. Gavre Rabba Oma Milsa, a great man, said a statement. Name a bataima. Let's say an explanation to understand what he meant to say. And this is how he explained it. Needless to say that this wouldn't be allowed during the week because it could be hurtful, dangerous to the person, that it's a rough surface, he can cause problems for himself. You may have thought that maybe on Shabbos, this cheres, this earthenware keli, since it's a keli and it's not muktzeh, it would be better to use this rather than using a pebble, which is usually muktzeh. So maybe this would be a better idea to use this on Shabbos. Kamash Malon, therefore Rabbi Yechanan specifically said that it should not be used on Shabbos as well. And you should use a pebble which is safer, which is better. So although the statement of Rabbi Yechanan is true both regarding Shabbos and the weekday, he mentioned Shabbos because there is a particular chiddush regarding Shabbos. Rave Masnila, Rave did explain what Rabbi Yechanan said, Mishum Hasharas Nimin, that he was talking specifically about Shabbos, and the concern Rabbi Yechanan had was using this cheres will cause to pull out hairs. The Kashile, and because he interpreted Rabbi Yechanan this way, he had a question to Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Yechanan. He had a contradiction in the opinion of Rabbi Yechanan. What was the contradiction? Is it true that Rabbi Yechanan said that it's forbidden to use a cheres to wipe yourself on Shabbos? I see from this statement that when you do a malach on Shabbos, even without any kavanah whatsoever, it's forbidden. Like in this case, you're tearing out hairs without any kavanah whatsoever, and Rabbi Yechanan says it's forbidden. But for Rabbi Yechanan said in another place, halacha kistam mishnah, that we always paskin like a stam mishnah, and as a stam mishnah that we see that einem achaven is permitted. With Tanan, we learned in the mishnah, we had this before in the Gemara already. Nazir chayfif umefasfes, a nazir, which of course is a person that accepts one of the things. A nazir is not allowed to cut his hair, so he's not allowed to do anything that will cause to pull out hairs. He's allowed to wash his hair, he's allowed to untangle his hair or brush his hair. Avoloi saidik, he's not allowed to brush his hair with a brush that will definitely cause the hairs to be pulled out. So what do you see? Only in a case where it's definite that it will cause the hairs to be pulled out, it's not allowed. Otherwise, even if hairs might fall out, it's allowed because you're einem achaven. And we paskin like this Mishnah, according to Rabbi Yechanan. It's a stam Mishnah. So we have a contradiction in the opinion of Rabbi Yechanan whether einem achaven is an issue or not. Ella machvarte k'der Rav Nassim bar Oishiyah. The better pshat is like Rav Nassim bar Oishiyah said before, and Rabbi Yechanan taka holds that einem achaven is permitted on Shabbos. Now the Gemara comes back to explain what is the issue of being susceptible to the powers of kishuf if you use a cheres. So the Gemara brings a story. My kishafim. What is this kishafim we mentioned before? Kiha de Rav Chiste veRabbi bar Rav Huna. This is what happened with Rav Chiste and Rabbi bar Rav Huna. Havaka ozli ba'arva. They were going to travel in a boat. Omra lohua hi matronisa, this distinguished woman, a guy, said to them, Oisven ba'adaycho, let me sit amongst you. V'lo they didn't allow her to sit there. Omra ihi milsa, she said something. Asrasal arve, and she caused the boat to be stopped and it couldn't move. Omru inu milsa, so the Chachamim, Rav Chiste and Rabbi bar Rav Huna said something, and as Rashi said, they said a shem tahara, they said a holy name of the Eibishter, and shayua, they released the boat that it should be able to be moved. Amra lahu. So when she saw this, she responded and said to them, "My eved lahu. How could I use my powers of kishuf on you? I'm not able to. Why not? Because you're not susceptible for kishuf. Deloi niknach lahu b'chaspa. You don't wipe yourself with a earthenware that makes you susceptible to kishuf. V'loi kotel lahu kina amonaichu. And you don't kill a lice while you're wearing your garment. V'loi shalaf lahu yarke. And you don't pull out a vegetable, and you don't pull it out and eat it from a bunch of vegetables that are tied together. The asa gina, which a gardener ties a bunch of vegetables together, so you don't pull out one vegetable from there to eat it. So we have to first untie it and then you eat it. So we see over here in the Gemara that there are different things that cause you to be susceptible to kishuf, and this is one of them. That is a conclusion for the Gemara today.